What's going on, guys? SB here. Welcome to the Scent Bubble. We are in a new visual. I wanted to make it special because this is the final fragrance from the house, at least as of right now, that I have done a review on. So we're done for now until something new appears from this house. This is Day 3 Fragrances Midnight Raspberry review, the highly anticipated review that I've been sitting in the shadows, hiding away until all the content creators are done doing all their gassing and touting in regards to this fragrance. You guys know I live right by the brand and I have a great relationship with the folks at Day 3 Fragrances. Love them to death. They do great work and they're just genuine people with purpose. And those are all things that I appreciate, especially in perfumery. So, I know you guys know I've been around this fragrance for quite a while. And so I wanted to just let the dust settle before I offered my 2 cents. Now, a little bit of background story. I've been around this fragrance, pretty, not since its inception, but in its early days, and I've seen it develop. I've heard Michael speak on this in the development process. And so I've seen a few different variations of this and finally saw it get printed and pressed to the public. So I've worn it quite a few times. And since it's been out, I've worn it quite a few times. But I even gave it to you guys before I did my review. And so I had to go get another sample of it. But anyways, I've been wearing it all week to revisit this. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and so I'm not going to waste too much time. Let's dive right in. I've already sprayed my skin with 2 or 3 sprays, as well as this test strip. I don't have much left, but who the heck cares? Let's hit myself again on both. Great sprayer on that sampler. I am just going to read you guys a couple of quick notes that you will want to have in your arsenal while considering whether or not this fragrance is for you. So on Fragrantica, as of right now, 4.4 out of 5 rating. That is incredible, but the sample size is quite small for now. There's only 45 votes on Fragrantica. However, 4.4 out of 5, it seems like everybody who's encountered this fragrance is saying you gotta get your nose on it. So I'm really happy to give this review. I know you guys trust my voice, you trust my authenticity, and know I'm not gonna blow smoke about this fragrance. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. I'm gonna give you guys a lot of helpful information in terms of who I think this is for, if I think you should even purchase the fragrance. I'm gonna keep it 1,000. It's just who I am. And I know Michael Paul, as well as the folks at Day 3 Fragrances, are totally cool with that. They want people to be honest about how they feel about fragrances. So with that being said, let's dive right in. Here are the house notes while this fragrance dries down on both the test strip and my arm. This extrait de parfum, so it is an extrait, captures all the indulgence of a chocolate-covered raspberry enjoyed after nightfall. Midnight Raspberry opens with a photorealistic raspberry accord, brightened by coriander and Brazilian pink pepper. Then, the heart reveals plush patchouli and a large dose of natural Vietnamese agarwood oud that cloaks the fruit in dark complexity. So this is a natural material, not synthetic oud, which is what you guys get from top to bottom in just about everything, is a synthetic rendition of agarwood oud. This is a natural material, and apparently he put a lot of that in this. It cloaks the fruit, the raspberry, in dark complexity reminiscent of chocolate. The dry down features a high-end musk accord, saffron, and cedar with a whisper of ambergris. The result is a woody, fruity fragrance with a grown-up sweetness, moderate projection, and a sensual, complex character, perfect for special events, cool evenings, or whenever you want to make a statement. Okay, so let's get into my initial impressions of this fragrance. I think it's important to read the house notes of a fragrance because it explains kind of the vision for the fragrance, the intent of the fragrance, the attention to detail, what they want you to focus on. It's really a brand's way of exciting you about a fragrance, but also painting a picture of what the identity of the fragrance is to even see if it would be something that you would enjoy, as well as what to anticipate in the wearing experience. So I've put 3 sprays on my arm. And just to let you guys in on recently, now I've told you I've worn this fragrance on many occasions, but yesterday specifically, I put it on in the morning, and I was worried in my trial runs with this fragrance about performance, but typically you wouldn't imagine having performance issues with things like cedar and ambergris and oud because they're so dense of materials that I just assumed this was going to be like an entry-level gourmand style fragrance in its final rendition, and I didn't anticipate performance being a thing. But as I was kind of wearing it leading up to release, I was worried that my skin would just eat this fragrance alive because it's very soft on the nose. So in my wearing experience yesterday, I only applied it above the chest line because any opportunity to waft and experience the projection and sillage of this fragrance, I wanted to maximize that so I could really explain how it performed on me, both on clothes and on skin. So I sprayed this entire neckline area, even behind me, hit a couple of the pulse points on the arms so I could waft and joft. And then I also, just for extra credit, put 2 sprays back to back on my hand so that throughout the day I could just smell it like this. Now, specifically yesterday, I wore it in the office, so the elements weren't interfering. You know, I went to drop my kids off to school, and I was in the office till the afternoon. So my check-ins with this fragrance in terms of the experience was, I'm sitting at a desk, I'm typing, I'm making phone calls, I'm walking around the office, heading to the bathroom, coming back. Very much indoors and uninterrupted. So if there is projection and sillage and longevity, I should have felt it. And so I would check in and try to be conscious of what the experience was like as the hours progressed. And we'll talk about performance later, but I just wanted you to know how I wore the perfume in terms of the energy behind my evaluation of this fragrance. So initial impressions on this fragrance is that it's sensual, but it's so fresh that it doesn't only push toward romance. It truly could fit in that arena and seems like it's perfect for romance, intimacy, closeness, coziness, allure, invitingness. But it also seems very much a personal, you could be single, signature scent type of feel. So I don't want to stress that this is like a date night fragrance, because even though it absolutely could be, I do think you could wear this on your own and it be your own and not necessarily always evoke a side of, being intimate with somebody or having somebody in your life. And I think that's due to the kind of suede-ish nature of this fragrance. For me, it's very simple of a smell, but the complexity is in its texture. Some fragrances get complexity from the notes that you pick up, and some fragrances have their complexity within the texture of the fragrance. And so that's what I'm getting. Quite simply, in terms of the smell, I'm getting what feels very reminiscent of a dry, classy, woody experience, similar to Tom Ford's Oud Wood. It kind of creates this dry wood experience, but almost this suede-like freshness, and that's due to the musk interacting with the wood, and the oud and raspberry playing into that, and the coriander and all that jazz. But smell-wise, I get a very Tom Ford Oud woodish scent that's a little bit more velvety, with a splash of like Dior Homme Parfum or Dior Homme Intense, just a little dropper in it. So it's got that romantic, slightly sweet. They were absolutely accurate when they said, a kind of moderate projecting, sensual, mature level of sweetness. This isn't overly sweet. This isn't a sweet bomb. This is dry, woody, velvety, suede-ish, earthy goodness with sweetness trapped behind it, waiting to burst out. And it's at its bursting point. It's almost going to come out, but it's controlled by all of this class and elegance and texture. And that's what makes it more mature. I find that the more mature I get, the more I want the sweetness to be dialed in, 5 out of 10 sweet, 6 out of 10 sweet, 4 out of 10 sweet. And that allows for the other notes in a fragrance to really creep out. And in this case, it allows a lot of texture to come out. You have this kind of crushed velvetness about it. You have this kind of light dampness about it. You have a suede-ish, fresh cut suede-ish feel to it. You have this clean, dry wood experience that almost just feels like a luxury cut of the finest wood ever made. You have this sweetness that feels, you know, soft yet super inviting. It's a rich sweetness trapped behind other stuff, and so your nose is constantly being pulled in to try to smell more of that sweetness, and that adds to the allure of the fragrance. The raspberry, I don't know if I would call it photo real because it has a kind of lightness to it. You know, don't think raspberry like you would think of citrus. This isn't a bombastic bursting raspberry. This isn't a bright raspberry. It's a quite subdued, muffled, rich, quiet raspberry. So in that sense, it's kind of a surreal raspberry to me. It's somewhat between hyper real. It's a hyper real raspberry. So it's somewhat real, but given some different kind of character to it. The musk just kind of adds this very like sensual lift to everything. I know there's other notes labeled in the fragrance, and we'll touch on that again. Top, pink pepper, coriander; mid, raspberry, Vietnamese oud and patchouli; base, cedar, musk, saffron, and ambergris. And I was quite surprised because when you see cedar, ambergris, and oud, you think you're going to get hit with a heavy, weighty fragrance. And so reference points that I'm thinking of is Trace Oros level weight, or Philosophia level weight, or Alin level weight. This is a lot gentler than those releases. Again, it wears like an oud would with a touch more substance and density, but it floats on skin. It's quite quiet. It's very low projection, but the smell is incredible. As far as the smell is concerned, off the bat, it's like 9 territory just in the opening, and it's one of the best openings I've smelled from a day 3 fragrance. Like, it easily is within the top 3 to top 5 best openings of the line. You immediately smell this luxurious, slightly sweet, super sophisticated scent, and it provides something to the line that I think is not necessarily there at the current time, so kudos to them. But yeah, this fragrance is awesome. Again, as a reference point, I think it's like some Tom Ford oud woodish vibes with a little bit of Dior splashed in, but then it's got a little bit different of a textural play, and I'll tell you the fragrance that it reminds me of towards the end. But very good scent in the opening. It dries down quite similarly to me. I didn't smell a real difference between the test strip and skin, other than that you definitely want to put this on your skin when you're trying it, because you're going to need to get the most amplification out of such a quiet fragrance. Occasions, again, I think it's anything with your significant other. It is, though it's intimate, I think obviously it feels like it leans into fall winter, but because of the middleweight classness of it, I think it's a year-round fragrance. It's more of an occasion-based fragrance. You know, it can be dressed up to be fancy and special occasion, but it can also just be dressed up to be your personal signature scent in anything mildly important. I think this fits the after hours. I mean, it is called Midnight Raspberry. It does have a kind of nightlife evoking out of the fragrance for me. So to me, I feel like I would only wear this fragrance after 4 p.m. Year round though. Again, it wears so light and airy. It does have a velvety, powdery kind of substance to it, but again, it's gentle, it's quiet projection. So I would wear it absolutely year round. But I think intimacy, semi-formal, even formal occasions, more for women than men, I think. But I think men could also pull it off. It just really depends. I think it's a Swiss Army knife for kind of the after 4 p.m., whatever you might do type of category. But it does feel luxurious, it does feel special, but it's got so much freshness, it can be truly versatile in that arena. I don't really see myself wearing this as a upscale, casual type of scent, but you absolutely could because it's so dang fresh. It's got a similar freshness as a Valentino Uomo Intense type of experience, a Prada Luna Rossa Ocean type of experience. That kind of middleweight but super fresh, that, you know, it's light on the nose, it's very appetizing, you know, it's got the versatility there. Okay, let's talk about performance, guys, because I have to stress this. You must not blind buy this fragrance. You must not, because if we're just talking scent, you have to buy it, I think, right? But the performance for me, in all transparency, was so drastic that I have to encourage you guys to get a sample and wear it for a full day. Because if you get the same experience as me, you can't get this fragrance. You just can't. Let me tell you what happened. So for me personally, and again, I'm hoping everybody has the opposite experience of me. Everybody has different skin chemistry and things like that. I wore this fragrance to maximize the performance. I wore it indoors. I sprayed heavy all around the face. I wanted to see if the projection and sillage would go. I'm going to say that one limiting factor to my wearing experience is that I'm wearing it out of this and not the full bottle presentation. And I experienced the same thing with Tres Oros, where I tried Tres Oros with this, and it really didn't feel that robust. It was a great fragrance, but it didn't feel the same as when I sprayed it out of the full bottle. So I'm taking everything that I experienced and doubling it to estimate what you might experience. And that's that after the first hour and a half, maybe, of wearing this fragrance very heavily, you know, 10 plus sprays, my skin ate this fragrance for breakfast. After an hour and a half, it was virtually gone. Not just projection and performance, but even my hand that I juiced up quite heavily an hour and a half in, I was trying to do things like wave my arm to catch a waft or put my nose in my collar area and try to smell it, and it was gone. Now, some people might say, well, maybe you went nose blind, SB. Well, maybe the case, but what I did is when I thought I was nose blind, I went around the office to ask other people, do you smell this on me? And they said no. So I had a lot of reference points even when I felt like I wasn't smelling the projection. You know, sometimes you can go nose blind to stuff like this. Even people around me that I was asking for feedback weren't smelling it either. So after about an hour and a half to 2 hours, it truly transitioned to a skin scent extremely fast on me all over. So I could still smell it on my arm, but only if I was within this much distance away from my skin. And even when I smelt it, it didn't feel full, it didn't feel robust. I'm not sure the approach to the fixatives in this case, you know, could have benefited from some reworking, but nonetheless, because it's coming out of this small sprayer for me, I know that out of the giant bottle, maybe I could get a solid 2 to 3 hours of intimate, like 1 to 2 feet projection, light sillage, you know, something like a Prada, not Prada L'Homme, like a YSL L'Homme type of intimacy, you know, but the performance was extremely light for me. In the testing of the sample, it went max 2 hours. So for you, you might get a 3-hour max with a full bottle experience before your skin sucks it up if you have the same experience as me. And that was tough because, you know, even I'm okay with light projections. I'm okay with light performance. But when you have a special occasion type of fragrance, it has to be smelled. You know, and like I said, this wasn't the only time I went around and asked people, you know, what it smells like out in the air. Now, granted, when I hear everybody else in FragCom talk about this fragrance, they don't talk about having a bad experience with performance. So Here's my rule of thumb with you guys. My skin ate this alive, and I've worn it like probably 7-8 times since I first even heard about this fragrance. And I have tried it out of the full bottle presentation many times because I have friends that have it. So here's my caution to you, because you should get your nose on this scent. It's absolutely incredible. Out of the opening, I was giving it a 9. So for you guys, it could be a 9 or a 10 level scent. Here's my caution. You must go buy a sample, and you must wear the sample for the full day to make sure the performance is good. Because if you only get a couple hours out of this thing, I don't know if you can justify the coin you're gonna have to spend to get a 50 ml, which you might potentially run through extremely quickly. Again, remember, these full presentations are 50 ml. So if you're having to super duper spray yourself with this due to light projection and performance, then you might run through the bottle very quickly. And it's a premium dollar price for this particular fragrance. So try the fragrance. Hopefully your wearing experience is different. And if it is, praise God, because this is an amazing smelling fragrance that you will have a lot of utility with, and it's phenomenal. If you have the same experience as me, I do have a very good alternative for you that I believe is not necessarily one-to-one, but it is so close to this fragrance, and its performance is eternal. And so I have to offer this as an alternative to those of you who had the same experience as me, because if I had better performance, I would have totally picked up this bottle, but I can't. My skin just rejects it, even though I love the smell of it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a mature scent. For ages, I think it sits 20 years old and up, unisex. It's a transformative piece. On a woman, it'll smell a certain way. On a man, it'll smell a certain way. But it's just perfectly balanced to be a truly unisex fragrance. It's not the most gourmand. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel like this is a gourmand fragrance. I don't get necessarily the chocolatiness, maybe the texture of chocolate, not the smell of milk chocolate. So that kind of chocolatish, velvety, slight powdery, dense, slightly middleweight, dense richness, that I can amen. But you will not smell, I feel, chocolate in this fragrance. So I don't feel it's very gourmand. If you were intimidated by the potential that this is a gourmand fragrance, I don't get gourmand vibes from this at all. Again, think oud woodish vibes, dry, clean, woody experience, a splash of some Dior Homme parfum or intense, with a lot of great texture underneath. Alternatives. This reminds me of Aaron Terrence Hughes's Unicorn. I think they smell very, 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 very similar. And so if you had the same experience as me, get Unicorn. Now, Unicorn is just as much money as Midnight Raspberry, so you will pay a pretty penny for that fragrance as an alternative. But it is one of the greatest scent profiles I have ever smelled in perfumery, to me and my nose. So definitely sample both, and you'll see what I mean, where I really feel like the fixatives in that fragrance, at least for my skin, are retaining much more of the fragrance, and genuinely that fragrance is like 10 hours plus. And it also comes with an oil if you need to boost performance on it, which I never did. But that Unicorn by Aaron Terrence Hughes is absolutely phenomenal performance, and I think it smells really close to this. It's a lot more intense, so it has probably more like 3 to 5 feet of sillage and projection, so it's a much louder fragrance. But that is a super valid alternative if this didn't perform well on your skin. But I'm hoping it does perform well on your skin, because this is a phenomenal fragrance. For me right now, I give it a 9 out of 10 in terms of scent profile, but the performance is the element in the room that you need to evaluate yourself to make sure that you can actually experience this perfume when you're wearing it, and that others can at least experience it with you, even if it's intimate, close quarter combat type of stuff. Went over the rating. Closing thoughts: get your nose on it, get a sample of it, and don't be shy. Empty the tester, douse yourself in it, and experience this fragrance, and test it in whatever the practicality of your situation is, guys. There's so many sweet, intimate fall winter scents that I love, but I live in Arizona. It's 100 plus most of the year. So I have to be conscious of that when I evaluate my collection and the utility of it. For you guys, you know, if you're in a place where the elements are hitting you a lot, maybe this fragrance might not be appropriate because it might destroy a fragrance like this. Whereas if you're mostly indoors and your commutes are quick in between places and things like that, this might be totally appropriate for you. So get the sample and test it out in the environment you plan to wear it. But with that being said, it's an excellent fragrance. Again, Midnight Raspberry from Day 3 Fragrances. And that concludes our evaluation of fragrances from that house until we get a new 2026 release. Guys, let me know if there's anything else I can answer for you in this review, because I wasn't at the desk, so I didn't have all the prompting. I don't know if I left anything out, but at 25 minutes of a review, you know, I don't think I left much out at all. But let me know what your experience has been with this fragrance. Don't listen to what everybody says about this fragrance. I know it's going to be very selective. Everybody's experience is going to be different with this one because it's very unique. And I hope you guys got, you know, some value out of this review. But if you do have it or have experienced it, please share your experience in the comment section below. Lastly, I want to just say this. If you have something negative to say, this isn't just about this fragrance, it's about any fragrance on my channel. Please speak your feedback respectfully. Remember, when you come to this channel, you're in somebody else's house, somebody else's domain. So take your shoes off and be respectful. I don't want anyone to agree with me unnaturally. This place is fully welcoming all of the criticism and feedback possible, but there is an emphasis that you need to be respectful and mindful of how you use your words, because of the simple fact that we are evaluating art, and art is very subjective. And so we don't want to push our views of something as if we are the Lord or the law of the land when it comes to evaluating fragrances for their quality and things like that. With that being said, like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. Talk to me, I do talk back. I'm going to throw some videos up on the left and right hand side based off what you've been searching for. And I hope you have a blessed week. Peace.